Dear colleagues, we shall start. I'm Serebritsky Ivan, the Deputy of the Committee of the Natural Resource Management and Environment Committee. I will be facilitating our plenary session. The plenary session of the 20th Ecological Forum, the Jubilee Ecological Forum, the Large City Ecology, that is being held in EXPOFORUM for the 7th time. And it's already inspired specialist professionals in the area of ecology. This year, we decided the motto of our forum, the ecology is an outlook for the future. It's a perspective area, and it's been proved by the projects and programs that have been realized in our country. It's in line with the many areas of concern that are part of our life, the life of our city. Today we have the representative board that will share the information about perspective and important tendencies of the development of the sector for the following nearest future. First of all, as a tradition, we would like to give the opportunity to welcome the audience on behalf of the Ministry of the Natural Resources and Ecology of the Russian Federation. The welcoming address will be read by Mr. Minuhin, the Director of the Department of Natural Resource Management and Water Resource Management. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. On behalf of the Ministry, I'd like to welcome the forum participants. The ecology is enhanced in importance as a synonym of nature. Initially, the meaning was the influence of a man on the environment. Now we have to limit the impact, because resource-sparing economy is one of the priority of the state management of the Russian Federation. We have the important task to stimulate the natural resource technologies. It will enhance the ecological efficiency of the Russian economy. Undoubtedly, the forum will enhance the ecological responsibility of business and the citizens of our country, and we will transfer the economy to the sustainable development. Without our environment concern and environmental safety ecology, we won't see the future and we won't preserve our natural resources for the next generation. I wish you the fruitful discussions. Mr. Kozlov. On myself, I'd like to add, I'm responsible for water resource management. March. Time is spent for water resource management. The federal projects are being implemented, for example, as to the Volga River, Baikal Lake. March will be done in the nearest future. As to the Don River Basin, to expand the River Volga geography. It's necessary to discuss these issues additionally during the forum to work out some recommendations, and the ministry will take it into account. And I hope that our river basins will be given much concern. I'll wish you fruitful work. Thank you, Roman. Large City Ecology, it's an international forum, but this year, for the first time, in the preparation of the forum and events of the forum, Japan has participated for the first time. The deputy of the Ministry of Ecology of Japan, Mr. Konda Tamahira.
The last week, dear people of Russia, especially of St. Petersburg and Leningrad Oblast, I would like to congratulate the beautiful city of St. Petersburg, the cultural center of Russia, will host this wonderful international conference on the environment. Environmental issues have no borders, and all countries must work together to protect our beautiful planet. As we know, we are now facing two global crises, the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change. At this critical juncture, it is essential for all of us to redesign our socio-economic system to make them sustainable and resilient. With this in mind, Japan is now accelerating three transitions: a transition to a decarbonized society, a transition to a circular economy, and a transition to a decentralized society. Japan is currently working on to promote a transition to a circular economy from 3 points. The first one, policy making. Japan submit a bill on plastic resource calculation to our diet to promote designing of sustainable products and also to promote the reduction of plastic waste and the decarbonization of plastics. Regarding to the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision, which aims to reduce additional pollution by marine plastic layer to zero by 2050, it has already been shared by as many as 86 countries now. I'm grateful that it has been shared with Russia as well. The second one, finance. Japan has published the world's first disclosure and engagement guidance to accelerate sustainable finance to innovative companies with a view to realize a circular economy. The third one, partnerships. The government of Japan and Keidanren, the largest business federation in Japan, have launched the Circular Economy Partnership to facilitate the transition to a circular economy. Within the framework of this forum, the Consulate General of Japan in St. Petersburg and the St. Petersburg city government will host the Japan-Russia Regional Exchange Environmental Conference in Ocean on the theme of marine plastic waste. We hope that the conference will be a meaningful opportunity for experts from both Japan and Russia to work in partnership to solve this problem. Currently, Japan-Russia relations are progressing in a wide range of areas of cooperation, including economic and cultural exchanges. This year is the Japan-Russia Year of Regional and Sister City Exchanges, and it is very significant that today's event took place while the outbreak of the new coronavirus is still ongoing. Once again, I would like to thank the Russian side for the initiative in organizing this conference. Спасибо большое.
Unfortunately, from the board, we didn't see the presentation. Please, technical team, solve this problem because we saw only the background. We will watch the recording later on. Our ecology problem, they are the general ones, they are common ones, and litter waste, litter pollution is the common problem for all the country. Now we will start their presentation. So the first presentation, I'd like to invite to the mic the head of the Natural Resource and Environment Committee, Denis Belaev. Dear friends, dear colleagues, I am very happy to welcome you here on the Jubilee Forum. I am convinced that the issues of the environment protection, they are of concern not only of experts but of everybody. Success depends on our joint actions in this area. The International Forum is a unique venue where we can see that all this experience of other countries, other regions. We can exchange our experience. We can join different environmental projects. In my presentation, I'd like to speak about the issues of environment protection that we are handling here in St. Petersburg. In 2020, on the order of the government, the mobile team, emergency team was created. It's been working for 1 year. In April, More than 10,000 referrals we handled as to the pollution of water sources, chemical pollution, and other issues we solved. We pulled together all their efforts, and we initiate the live dialogue with our citizens. Much attention is paid to water resources. St. Petersburg is the city on the water sources. It's a northern Venice. It's our germ. It's our value, and we have been enhancing our work in this respect, namely rehabilitation of water facilities and water causes. We have by 300 we increase the amount of work. We twofold, so we improved our floating waste removal. We try to preserve our unique water objects. Now we have the project as to the cleaning of the river Smolenka. Now we have 126 hydrotechnic facilities in the assets of our city. Not only Water Resource Committee, but also the administration of St. Petersburg are involved in this work. By fivefold, we reduced the number of abandoned hydraulic and technical facilities. In the year 2020, we conducted 6 studies as to these facilities. In March 2021, the Ministry of Natural Resources included in their regulations these 2 facilities. And now we are going to implement the project as to eradicate, to remove the hazardous objects, the hazardous facilities from our financial assets. Having analyzed the number of requests and applications from our citizens, we think that the system of monitoring will be developing. In our concept that we discussed in our council under the patronage of the government of St. Petersburg, we set up a task force to realize our initiatives up to 2030. Despite the difficulties, we can see fully that the world is changing, and the situation we are in is dynamic. It makes us to think about challenges we are facing. The situation is completely different from the past. We are going to update the system. We are going to implement new fully automated stations to assess the condition of the environment, and we are going to increase our capacities here. Despite the difficult year as to number of restrictions related to COVID and the opportunity of work of our watchdogs authorities, we tried not to reduce the workload, and we tried to preserve all our activities to become effective. On the results of our work, we discovered a great number of infringements. A great number of penalties were imposed. In 2020, we conducted 2,820 some inspections. Our goal is to raise awareness, to improve the ecological knowledge of everybody. We see a kind of a stimulus for development, a potential for raising awareness in ecological safety. Outlook for the future can't be made without raising awareness, without ecological enlightenment, without the knowledge in this respect, taking into account a difficult year, difficult situations, difficult limitations. We conducted 180 events 220 participants were online. All in all, there were 5,000 of them. They participated, they answered their questions, they commented, they were online. They were a part of our system development that will continue. As separate aspects of our activities, separate our pride, and I am sure that ecological knowledge, ecological enlightenment should be closely connected with the practical experience. People should see this, people should acquire this. In the setting of the city, in St. Petersburg, we preserved 15 preservation areas. It's our pride. I am greatly thankful for this work. This work is still continuing, and we are establishing additional 3 ecologically protected zones and areas. The ecological burden is being increasing. It's under the influence of our history, of other challenges, but we managed to preserve these oases, these islands of ecology. We are developing the ecological trails, and we have the plans to operate and to design ecological trails. We can go in the field, and we can share, and we can have this experience being in this unchanged nature. Finalizing my presentation, I'd like to say that our governor, Beglov, announced this year, the Year of Ecology. I've been asked what kind of events we were planning. It was a novelty for us. We will announce all our planned events. We will invite you to participate in these events, and we will give the opportunity to everybody to participate to these events. We are open for any ideas, any discussions. We will analyze them. There are no bad suggestions. We think that pulling our efforts, we will improve every instruments we have in hand to implement our nature preservation projects. I wish everybody new business contacts, successful work, new projects, new knowledge, and brilliant, sunny mood and good health. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denis. Our forum is both international and interregional, and now I'm pleased to introduce our guest, the Minister of Natural Resources, Forestry and Environment of Perm region, Dmitry Mikhailovich Belanovich. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let me congratulate the organizers on this Jubilee event and to update you, let me give you some numbers. The Perm region is 15 million hectares of land, and that's a large network of water bodies. Perm is a leader by city forest territory. So it was very important for us that our green bodies in cities were properly covered by the regional legislation. So that's why some time ago we decided to adopt a law on protection of green areas of the Perm region, which we developed for the purpose of regulation, maintenance, protection, and reproduction of green spaces in the cities of the Perm region. The basis is the concept of green area of different functions, covered with trees and shrubs, or artificial and greenery-free areas is a wider concept compared to green areas, which enables us to protect existing plantations and associated territories and objects. The sphere of this provision is now connected with the use of city forests and specially protected natural zones and city parks regulated by the federal legislation. This draft law sets a separate category of green areas to be regulated. The draft law has been submitted to isolated legal concepts of city governance that managing green objects, and they are based on the federal law on general principles of organizing local self-governance of Russian Federation and on environment protection. Next slide, please. Oh, you're not playing my slides. Can I have my slides? The need to develop the draft law emerged a long time ago. The Perm region has always been characterized by high level of public activity in the sphere of environment protection, and to provide comfortable environment for the population, reproduction of green bodies will increase the potential for reproduction of green bodies, and in near future we plan to auction construction of a greenery that will create new jobs and reduce costs of transportation. An important issue to be dealt with at the moment is the need to provide safety of green bodies during construction works, first of all, and that is why we provide for measures to prevent the existing bodies and for considering the norms in construction works. Developing this law, we analyzed Russia's best practices. At the moment, such laws are fairly few, only 17 similar laws in regions of Russia, and not everywhere the laws have sufficient regulation. Many of them are of framework nature. 4 regions of Russia that include St. Petersburg, Krasnodar, and Moscow. First of all, our law should protect areas from uncontrolled management, ensure preservation of trees and shrubs in protected areas, especially during construction work. The second important result should be replenishment of local budgets from demolition of green bodies. So we try to investigate this area in depth, and that will increase the budget of cities. In addition to that, we should introduce administrative responsibility for a reproduction of green bodies. Oh, no. The structure of the draft law is shown in this slide. The basic provisions include green areas and city development, local acts of considering existing and future green areas, demolition and compensation plantations, mega damages, filing claims for green area damage, planning, accounting of planning, and informing the population about through various communication channels. In the sphere of use and protection of green areas of the Perm region by citizens will have the following right: So you have the right to apply and to make suggestions, to file cases for damage to green areas. We will also introduce social monitoring, the concept of social monitoring, special collegiate bodies to address issues such as green areas in communal areas and courtyards. Legal persons include who shall not be allowed to destroy green areas, to observe fire safety rules, to create car parks, etc. Important issue connected with financing shall be and funds collected by municipalities for green area destruction. We believe that this law will improve management and make the environment of the citizens more comfortable. And I will appreciate if any of your colleagues could share your experiences in this sphere. So in conclusion, let me say that the Perm region today also includes almost 300 specially protected zones united under the common directorship. We develop environmental tourism, so it was very interesting for me to learn about the specially protected zones in St. Petersburg. We are always happy to welcome you in the Perm region because our region is always happy to entertain guests. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Dmitry Mikhailovich. Perm is the gate to the lungs of the world, and of course green areas are extremely important there. And of course we understand the importance, but our forum is called Ecology of a Big City. So what do managers or administrators of the big cities, so we know already what's happening in St. Petersburg, have another capital city which, of course, exceeds all other subjects of the Russian Federation and, in a way, is a leader and a locomotive of environmental initiatives. We have online the head of Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Protection of Moscow, Anton Olegovich Kulbachevsky.
Good afternoon, dear friends, dear citizens. I apologize for not being here with you, but allow me to give you the presentation from my working place. I congratulate you and I wish you fruitful and successful work. It's a very useful event. It will bring about fruitful results in our ecological areas. Today, the development of cities is defined by the concept of sustainable development. Moscow is following the concept of sustainable development. We have achieved a great number of results. The much we do, the more it's difficult to reach improvement. Ecological effectiveness is a condition for sustainable development. All the cities, London, New York, Singapore, they have their strategies as to environment protection and climate changes, and they consider ecology as inseparable part of comfortable conditions for living and health of residents. In March of this year, the first meeting of the U20 happened. The matrix for their priority development was established, among them adaptation to climate change and preservation of nature and biodiversity of the cities, green projects, financial instruments of the development of digital technologies. As I've already said, much has been achieved. The world now is changing greatly. On the one hand, the conditions are to be set. On the other hand, we have to comply with these conditions. Our way that we have chosen, it's our way for the future. Since 2010, Moscow reconsidered the areas for development. 14 programs were accepted, and 7 areas were identified in the ecology conditions. Moscow is a leading city in this respect. Comparing with the European cities, we improve our air, the green areas among these natural systems and natural areas despite urbanization. Also, our legislation is progressive and we improve monitoring of the environment. The figures are on the slide. I'm not going to say them and concentrate your attention on this. Climate values, climate indicators, they are values of the upper level. They are there is a direct link between the reduction of green gases and overall pollutions. Resource economy. It's a mainstream. Ecology is the mainstream of the policy of the large cities and of sustainable development. Climate risks are they are the drivers of the development of economy. It's an impetus for the search of a new technological solutions for the city development, implementation of innovative, ecologically friendly, natural friendly technology. In Moscow, there are a great number of projects that were accepted, and the number is growing up. We have reduced by 25% the green gas emissions comparing to 2020. Quantitatively, it's more than 20 million tons of CO2. Our reduction is can be comparable with the average European city emissions. Overall goals, 30% reduction up to 2030. It requires new technological solutions. Also, we suggest to use scientifically based research for our reserves, approach to our reserves. Otherwise, it will be difficult to reach our goals. We conducted the scientific evaluation of our reserves in different areas of economy. We do have these reserves. Much reserves we have in construction area. In the Russian Federation, there is not an obligation, compulsory requirements in this area, but more and more green technologies are being implemented. Up to 90 buildings, they have their international certificates. More than 200 buildings, they are constructed on the basis of green approaches. Green housings, they are very profitable. We can reduce risks. We can improve our marketing tools for leasing companies. They can reduce by 25–30% of their expenditure, and it can improve the quality of our resources and improve our energy resource handling. The renovation program has started. More than 5.5 thousand calories we preserved. The estate we can reduce by 8 and 5% our construction costs, and we'll get profit back in 2 years. We compared our effectiveness of implementing green technologies. We spared energy resources in the range of the 10 to 30%. As to we found we found abandoned areas that can be used for construction. 15% of the territory of Moscow city, part of them has been renovated. You know, for example, such kind of enterprises that are called ZIL, and hammer and the scissor. They use energy efficient green technology. 50% territories are to be made as a green spaces. There are examples of different cities that step aside from industrial activities, to all abandoned industrial activities, to improve the air of the city. Our ambition in Moscow is to preserve our technological capacities and to improve the city of our city. We closed down cement producing facilities. Russia has shifted to the new way of assessment of industrial activities based on the best available technologies. In Moscow, scientific work has been done to assess their impact of chemical activities. The first results are very promising. They say that Moscow enterprises, they are in line with ecologically safety technology. Despite the low potential of the city to the use of the renewable energy sources, we are still hoping for improvement. Briefly, at the end, I'd like to say about the importance of green projects. 20, 30 years ago, our ecological activities, they weren't only restricted by preservation of biodiversity and natural resource management, but now ecology is an economically feasible area. It's our ecological way of management our economy. Many leading cities proved that green solutions, they are economically profitable for the industry. For example, in Helsinki and in other cities. Moscow has all the necessary reserves in this respect, and we are going to realize them. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You've set us a high standard, so we know where to look at. You have the valuable experience to share, and I'd like to mention that, like all people involved in environment protection, we all know that that every good initiative presented in their own way or deliberately presented in their own way can look different to the public. That is why, when preparing this forum, we planned a special event dedicated to the role of the mass media in covering environmental issues, because mass media, that's the future of environment protection. And let me give the floor to Ivan Ivanovich Zasursky, member of the Presidential Council for Civil Society and Human Rights, member of the Environmental Council under the Governor of St. Petersburg. Good afternoon. I'm happy to have the opportunity to address you. And so I know that, we are very worried that all is well with you, because if there's no St. Petersburg, so what can we do? We need a place to go now that the borders are closed. We visited Perm. We love Perm. But we love St. Petersburg even more. So for me, that's a delight to be useful to you. So thank you for this introduction. A lot depends on journalists. So what depends on journalists? When something happens to us, I asked specially to demonstrate our website. So you see, we produced. So I don't have this. I only have one book, but this book in the electronic format, in a more environment-friendly format, is available, and it's free. I did not produce. I'm not going to make a presentation here, because all I need to show, I can show with this web page. So when we decided to make a presentation on climate and in ecology, and nobody is interested in ecology. Everybody knows that modern life is complex and it does not always smell good. The situation with the climate is much more dangerous, because ecology results in growth of diseases. But as for climate, we may all die in a day, and we don't want this to happen. To manage the problems, politicians need lots of power. They need to redistribute resources. They need to invest in decisions to prevent the most serious problems. And no politician, even in the most autocratic system, nobody can act nobody can oppose expectations of the society. If the society believes there are no problems with climate, that will be useless. So the role of journalists and the role of science, of course, much more depends on scientists, because journalists. I am head of department at Moscow State University, so I'm a scientist. But from scientists, we want to get accurate information as to what to expect, what problems we'll be facing. So if you could go down a little bit to the bottom of my slide, see what still down. Yeah. And a little bit up, now go up a little bit. So when we decided to create this resource, so that was the first climate report. Of course, the first climate report was made by administration of St. Petersburg. And when I told Vladimir Vladimirovich about the climate situation, I referred to the report made in St. Petersburg, because in St. Petersburg the temperature grew by 1.5%. Vladimir Vladimirovich did not believe me, so I had to swear. But then later he said, "Okay, I see. Yes, you told me what you told me is true, because already in the north the temperature is growing faster. St. Petersburg is prone to floods." So the question we all interested in is the life cycle of cities. You know that anecdote when Emperor Peter I started the city, he said, the city is forever. And then some old lady told him, no, it's only 300 years. So there is a real danger. The changes are happening. The flood barrier was first planned in the same form in the 19th century, and we cannot keep it closed forever, because the Neva River is very powerful, and no scientist will ever tell you that you have like 5, 10 or 15 more years to go, because when scientists make their forecasts, they make them linear on the basis of available facts. They may not necessarily consider are there critical points, because, for example, this year we had lots of snow, right? So our task as journalists is to inform you about research. So when we produced this report, first of all, we agreed with the Web of Science, and they assisted us to collect 77,000 of articles in English, scientific articles and publications indexed by Web of Science. So we based on this. So see, here is the sphere of scientific debate. So please go up a little bit. Please scroll up. When preparing this report, we tried to identify the most well-known, the most famous scientists. So this database includes 77,000 of articles and publications. So when we produced our report, the key themes, we asked the most distinguished scientists to describe the key points in Russian. And when we produced our report, which we distributed, we used abbreviated articles, peer-reviewed on the website. And so why so much work, why so much effort? Because this subject is considered arguable. So people think maybe there's no climate change, but as journalists, and of course in the Council on Human Rights, there are some environment protection experts. So we wanted to demonstrate that there is certainty in the world about this. And starting from Mikhail Budika, a prominent Soviet scientist, head of the observatory, who 50 years ago made a forecast which still stands true. 50 years ago, can you believe that? And of course, it was hard, because you know how he produced this forecast? The government asked him to melt ice of the Arctic. So what do we need to do? And then he advised, he said that we need soot. And when he produced he was asked to produce a project, he said, we don't need to do anything. It will happen by itself. And he found the courage, he found the strength to produce a model. How many people knew that 50 years ago we knew what was going to happen? This is a problem connected not only with science, but with journalism, with mass media. So for us, it's extremely important for science to develop in Russia and for the open science to develop in Russia in particular. And first of all, the role of journalists is to divert your attention to sources that we can trust. And no scientist will ever tell you. Same is true about doctors. How many more days you have to live? So it's 5 days or 20 years, we don't know. So here the situation is similar. No scientists, but scientists can draw your attention to potential risks. What are the risks? In such cities as St. Petersburg, London, New York City, it depends. The initiative depends so that we manage to do something, because this is a huge challenge. For that, we need to mobilize our resources. And without media drawing attention to these issues, no government can redirect resources properly. So we hope that we will continue working together. We are preparing our second report. The second report will be on adaptation of the management system, territory adaptation. In the previous report, 2 chapters were written by Ivan Alexandrovich, who is a brilliant author. And we hope that this year he will also author the section for our report. So you said not many good words about Moscow, and that is good. But I believe that my certainty that we should deal with this started with your work. So I'd like to thank you for the courage to be consecutive, for sticking to your opinions, and thank you for staying where you are.
Thank you, Ivan. Very flattering. And you recollected their anecdote about the 300 years anniversary. Continuing developing what has been said by Ivan, we all, as representatives of management, science, and journalism, all this knowledge shall be used by the society and shall be implemented, lived up by lay people. And it's a connection between the representatives of the community that are concerned about ecological problems. The role of the public organizations as to the ensuring ecological safety of the cities. We will listen to the next speaker. Thank you so much. I will develop what has been said by Ivan. When we are talking about the role of the mass media, we shall talk about their responsibility. I mean, journalists, the journalist community, they are not just professionals who shall know the reliable information sources, but we shall make sure that the information is reliable, it's not distorted, they are not under some speculations, some distortion campaigns that have their goal not to inform the society, but to reach their own goals. The topic of my presentation main ideas of the role of the public organizations as to ensuring ecological safety of large cities. Quite recently, dear colleagues, we see the strengthening of the ecological, environmentally safe policy. It's laid down in our constitution. It's a constitutional responsibility of the government of the Russian Federation for ecological safety. I'm talking about the fact that now we are in the historic area, historic time, when their legislation is being strengthening as to the industrial enterprises, regional authorities. The goal is to improve the quality of life, ecological safety of our territories, and ecological safety of us as human beings. New challenges are being emerging. They are regional, they are national, they are international. We have, it has been said about global challenges, climate agenda, but we have our internal challenges. Now we are actively and even aggressively, we are constructing the infrastructure in the area of a new system of waste management. A number of social ecological conflicts are going up, and I'm publicly saying this. Some conflicts, they are latent. They are not obvious for the journalists, for the federal authorities. To solve these conflicts, we need our professional management, professional regulation, professional expertise. For example, it's or solid waste management policies. It requires investments, investment projects. Every investment project should start not from a visit to the government and bright presentation, but from the understanding who lives on the territory, to initiate the dialogue with the residents of this territory, because there are risks of the canceling of the projects, and they are very they are really feasible. For example, some investments, they enter the region, they are approved by the governor, the land is being allocated, but having not calculated the risks related to the ecological conflicts, these projects are terminated. People don't understand what's happening. People are not aware. They lack the information, and it results in misunderstanding, not understanding, and it entails danger. We shall be in line with the authorities, regional authorities, namely. The effective solutions of all these problems, require the participation of their expert community. We are talking about expert control and expertise, and I stress the word expertise. The ecological concerns of the society are very important. We see that society is interested in ecological safety. We have to develop dialogues for venue with participation of public and business organizations. The public dialogue is to be initiated. Any solution in the area of resource management, any technological solution has to be under their public expertise. We have a very important document, and I am addressing those who work in regions, is the regulation 1288, and it stipulates how to initiate the work with the public organizations, how to address and communicate with regional authorities. It requires public control, public monitoring. We conduct public polls. For the second year, we have had the systematic problem. Or maybe I'll name this as a task. The task is there is the request for a direct dialogue between regions and the federal center. The regional authorities and the participants of the national project that is named ECOLOGY, they are not fully involved with the federal center. And I think this task is to be solved. The second systematic task is the request of the society for information. The lack of information as to realization of the national project named ECOLOGY, it doesn't give the opportunity to involve in our project. And it's, for example, it's the project that is named the Comprehensive System of Solid Waste Management. The mediation is necessary, the dialogue is necessary in the region, and I'd like to stress once again here, it's a necessary requirement, it's constructive approach, and it requires competences. Some venues, they are created in the regions. The effective direct dialogue with the society may be the venues that are created under the patronage of the higher authorities. For example, St. Petersburg, Perm region. It's the opportunity of the government to get feedback, personal feedback from their expert community and then translate this to the realization of the regional ecological policy. I think this information, these practices are to be shared. In conclusion, I'd like to continue the thesis that was raised by our Japanese colleague as to the fact that ecology doesn't have any borders. Green diplomacy is to be developed. It's a mild tool. We see that we have our neighbors, our colleagues, our partners, foreign partners, but communication, the dialogue is not well built up. Green diplomacy can initiate these connections, can improve the communication between countries. It's true, ecology doesn't have borders like a multiplication table. It has a great potential. I'd like to stress once again that our forum is the international forum, and traditionally it's the venue to create such kind of a dialogue. I am thankful to the government of St. Petersburg for the establishment of this venue for the dialogue. We like this. It's very comfortable, constructive. It's a very warm setting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashid Aidinovich. And more than one speaker said that modern challenges for the society today are the client issues, and which shall touch upon on circular economy, low carbon world, decarbonized world, which is especially true speaking of cities. So what is true and what is not? What's our fantasy? So these issues are relevant both for the public and to the scientific community, and we'd like to hear the opinion of the NGO Equal Rights, head of Ecology Environmental Protection Section of the Expert Council under the Federation Committee on Agrarian and Food Policy, who is very familiar as an expert in this sphere. Thank you very much, dear Ivan Alexandrovich, dear Denis Sergeyevich, for inviting me to speak. I'm proud to say that I was born in St. Petersburg, and thank you for these speeches. I think that Denis Sergeyevich set the global agenda of the northern capital, access to the Baltic Sea. Indeed, we are in a unique location, and I'd like to give my greetings because we will celebrate International Earth Day, International Forestry Day, and International Day of Water. So today we have three days to celebrate. And indeed, this is a great capital with great tasks, great environmental landmarks. And speaking of speeches, Anton Olegorich Kolbachevsky, Dmitry Mikhailovich Belanovic's presentation of Perm, of course, we should mention the climate agenda. I am very grateful to previous speakers, Ivan Ivanovich Rashidaidinovich, for raising a climate issue, a low-carbon issue, because this is something we will have to deal with in the next decade. We can no longer. On the 9th of March, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, meeting with the ministers, said that, of course, decarbonization is very important. It could not. We should be thoughtful about it and avoid narrow economic points. And in some major cities, where major could not achieve green financing in international markets because they were accused the companies that do not correspond to the low carbon agenda. So today, it appears that Russia, that traditionally and in the future, will still transport and extract sources such as energy sources such as oil and coal, which shall be subject to sanctions. How can we avoid this? Only together, regional, federal, and public could help us avoid these sanctions. Today we have three main points you can see in this slide. And in year 2015, then the Paris Agreement was adopted on climate. It continued with the Sustainable Development Goals. We promised to gradually, steadily reduce CO2 emission, but in addition to industry and greenhouse gases, we should also discuss methane emission, impact of industrial waste facilities. Today, in addition to national obligations, all the 85 subjects have regional obligations listed in this slide. Both St. Petersburg, Perm, and Moscow that have spoken today in near future will have to adopt relevant strategies in Moscow, in St. Petersburg on emission monitoring, but they should go deep into climate agenda, but also enterprises and companies should also carry out independent assessment of their contractors, not only of their branches, not only of their own divisions, but even Russian banks, when deciding on whether to issue or not to issue a loan, look at how environment-friendly a company is. Today, we have two main fields, green, blue, and so-called neutral economy. Of course, the green economy is still beyond our reach. Let me show you some dates. Here we see the obligations under the Paris Agreement, and before the 10th of May next year, every region has to adopt a regional plan of adaptation for climate change. So we only have one more year to go. And I think this platform will be an excellent start for us to discuss the best initiative, best practices that could be multiplied throughout our territory. And what's also important is that recently a meeting took place with Vice Prime Minister, and there they approved draft project the federal law on reduction of greenhouse gases. So please review this document, because very soon, in less than 10 years, we have to create a greenhouse gases inventory. And on the 8th of March, we got a marvelous present on the 9th of March, a federal law number 39 on disclosure of environmental information. Now, not on Article 42 of the Constitution, which is the basis on access to information, but now we have a federal law. Regional authorities have to disclose such information, not only about emission, but also on water discharge and utilization of hazardous waste. Now, this is an obligation. A journalist, and as Ivan Ivanovich told us, will have more information to analyze and the civil society can address environmental conflicts and will have more access to information. Let me quote Ruslan Edelguriyev, who is a representative on climate issues of the president. Countries that do not introduce low carbon still have to pay for carbon when exporting their products or when implementing sectoral measures of carbon regulation. Thus, at the highest level, such issues are being discussed, starting with President Putin, and cannot be avoided. The plan was avoided by the government of Russian Federation. 12 cities, you may see in this slide, put together in the federal national program Clean Air. You know all the cities, and by year 2030 the number of these cities should increase to 48. We are specially supervising the climate agenda connected with pollution of the air. And let me remind you that the government of Russian Federation is now working on the strategy of social ecological development up to 2030, which includes the climate agenda, clean water agenda, the environment, circular economy, mentioned twice by the president, that companies should switch to circular economy, where waste should become source resources for other industries. We are still on the way. We're still expecting the federal law on recycled resources. It's wasteful to throw things away. This is stupid. This is just stupid. Everywhere in the world we have waste and resources, and we had in USSR had an institute on recycled materials. So the traditions are now being revived. But since 1950s, the national planning system realized there is waste and there are recycled resources that could be used. So this well-forgotten past is now becoming a theme of the future. And now slowly and gradually we are getting back to that. And of course the climate and low-carbon agenda, that's not about waste management. It's also about circular cycle economy, utilization, and managing hazardous waste. Our strategy, of course, we need to reduce the amount of buried waste. We need to process 100% of waste. This waste, this is less than 1% of all waste we produce. What about industrial waste? What about landfills? What should we do with that? So only addressing this issue as a whole and dealing with this issue as a whole, we can meet our low-carbon obligations. And as an example, let me mention Sakhalin. They will take part on international green financing and modernization. And they're going to tell us how the Sakhalin region became a pilot region for quotas for low-carbon economy. And let me inform you, I invite everyone present here in person or online to our session of the Expert Council or the Federation Council for Nature Management held by Alexei Mayorov, 10 till 1:30 p.m. Meeting Hall D4, we shall discuss international instruments of modernization and green financing. How can we implement the federal project and national projects without the federal money, and industry environmental strategies? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Natalia. You have covered a great number of issues, and even you touched my presentation for tomorrow. Dear colleagues, much has been said about climate. As to public community, journalism, authorities, But the knowledge we have and perspective we have in the area of climate changing that we receive, they come from science. Now, online, we have the director of the Major Geographic Observatory named by Voyakov, the member of the council under the president of the Russian Federation on Science and Education, Mr. Katsov Vladimir. Distinguished guests, distinguished participants of our event, I would like to talk about a different side of our relation with the environment. Much has been said about how we impact it, but I'd like to talk about the fact how the environment impacts us and what shall we do with this. Today we have the 23rd of March. Natalia has listed a number of festivities. On the 23rd of March, we celebrate the International Day of Meteorology. It's a good situation, it's a good day to recollect the contribution of the International Meteorological Organization, the Institute Roshydromet, how they contribute into the international and regional climatic actions. The deficit of the climate information results in the deficit of adaptation. It's a global problem, and it's very acute in some countries. And they create a framework basis called GROKA. I'd like to define the term of climate service and the establishment of climate production and to give it to clients, to consumers. It's climatic information, the data about the climate changing, climate impact, about the future situations, how it can be used by customers, consumers, ranging from the reference books up to different recommendations. Now, different axes is emerging, such as meteorologic service, climatic services. Climatic service, the main task of this is a scientifically based study of adaptation of economy, population, in line with the current condition of a climatic system. Climatic service involving scientific research of adaptation. I name it's been held in different establishments. For example, it's in the physical observatories. But quite recently, we have been talking about unchanged climate. It's well known. Theoretical assessments with a high probability show that in the nearest 10 years, the humanity is doomed for the certain climate changes on the Earth, regardless of our efforts. For example, in the area of emission reductions, they will result, I hope, in the necessary result in the second part of the 21st century. But for the long time, it was dominating. For example, in the framework convention of the UN, it still gives us the place for the idea of adaptation, and it's laid down in the agreement of 2015. Our country is located on the large territory with different climate patterns. Much attention is to be paid to the quantitative assessment of the climatic risks. It has been mentioned by Ivan. The assessment should reflect the sectoral specificity to make the solutions. In the 2015 Framework Convention as to the prevention of emergency or calamity situations. In Russia, we have the plan in Russia up to the period of 2015, the 3-year plan for adaptation. It says quite rigid limits for adaptation for of the subjects of the Russian Federation. One of these subjects is St. Petersburg that demonstrates active efforts in this respect. Out of 29 events of the federal and regional activities, Roshydromet is committed up to the 21 activities. Mostly we are involved in the regional part of the adaptation program. Without ongoing monitoring of the condition of the ecological system, without this data, without this science, without forecasting, there is no real adaptation. The scientific part of adaptation mostly is devoted it's been reflected in the ordinance or decree of decree of our president as to the adaptation of the Russian Federation to the climate changes. This decree laid down the importance of establishment of the science-effective technologies to adapt to the climate changes, the development of recommendations as to their solutions in this respect should be used with the use's current instruments, taking into account not only climatic risks, but their risks of making wrong decisions. Scientific community will be involved in a huge work with the use of the different system of monitoring and innovative technologies, as well as creating of difficult mathematical models. And it's very resource intensive, namely computer resource intensive. We should assess how the changes, climate changes, will impact the large cities and the city residents, namely air pollution. The situation may be deteriorating due to climate changes. We are talking about extreme cold, extreme wind, urban flooding. This problem, the climate of the cities, is one of the important changes that we are facing. Scientifically based integrated service in the area of weather forecast is very important. The components of these services is the necessity to organize the monitoring, modeling, risk assessment, interpretation, and communication. It has been said today it's important, and also assessment of the recommendations of this service. It's important to stress out that everything should be based on the should be scientifically based. The subjects of adaptations, for example, they are those who are adapting to the changes. I'd like to say that the dialogue is to be initiated. The information is to be changed during planning, the monitoring of efficacy, the amendments of the strategy itself. We, as a part of scientific community, should fully understand, deeply understand this. We need only the scientific research results of monitoring, but their interpretation, adjustment of this data, it's not easy. And I've said that these forecasts of the climate patterns based on scientific and mathematical models, they may be wrongly applied. In 2012, the center was established to do this job. We conduct our own studies, we conduct our own experience in scientific studies, and we think that the dialogue in this area is very important part of a fruitful cooperation, and I'm a part of this communication and cooperation.
Thank you, Vladimir. In all the speeches we heard today, questions connected with environment protection and climate change are, first of all, connected with data management. Data management and what we heard in Russian Federation, we all know that state information system, national, local, industry information system, but the modern tasks we are facing require us to process much bigger amounts of data. In year 2015, at least in our information space, we started talking about digitalization, digital maturity, digital transformation. All these terms have to do are connected with an absolutely new approach to the management system in general. So it's really surprising that up to this day, the sphere, the environment, ecological industry, in the list of industries to be digitalized has not been included, though the situation is changing. It's changing. Here, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the Ministry of Natural Resources has started work on expert training those who will start this digital transformation in the industry to combine all those isolated databases to produce the agenda that will enable us to use those huge data arrays, those instruments, those tools available in the world. Speaking of adaptation of climate change, for example, there are excellent European tools that are all the way down to an individual house. We can obtain information, process this information, and get recommendations on how an individual household can adapt to the climate change in the US. So hopefully we will arrive there one day, and before our activities, I'd like to give the floor to the Senior Coordinator of the Climate Technology and Innovation of UN Organization on Industrial Development, Mr. Carlos Chandovi-Suarez. Good afternoon, Carlos. The floor is yours. Good afternoon. Can you see me? Yes, we can see and hear you. Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much for inviting me. I am very happy and shame I cannot join you in person, but so I'd like to share with you some of my ideas, what impact digitalization has. I would like to share with you of my plan, and I will do that in English, so I beg your pardon. So I will continue in English. Can you see my presentation? Not yet. Yeah. Now we can see your presentation, but it's kind of small. Okay, now we can see. Thank you.
Especially last year in 2020, we all faces some different challenges. COVID-19 changed our lives. Today we are talking about using these media. It was 3 years ago something that was not very common in our life. And today we are facing that. We are looking at that. We are talking. We have a solid and robust technology. 2020, and this triggered what we call the digitalization of the industry. All the big cloud providers become more active. Actually, the investment in artificial intelligence, that the investment in machine learning, the investment in big data, did transform our lives, did transform our society, did transform all our activities. And also, the challenges became an opportunity today for us. We have the opportunity to embark in the new development, of our economies, using those advantages we have today at the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, cloud technologies, machine learning. And we have the opportunity to change completely the way we are going to recover our economy. We are in Europe, we're still in lockdown. I am greeting you from Austria, Vienna. We still have limited access to the different common life, but nevertheless, we are working and trying to keep the path of work at the same as previously. So, but I wanted to share you some of the major developments that we have experienced in the recent years and today. But we need to link this technology development, digitalization, to the problem of climate. Climate, of course, we are talking today about climate. We're talking about green economy, but we have the chance now to use all the know-how that we have to address this issue. I think, especially in Russia, there are so many good. In Russian Federation, there are so many good mathematicians, good universities in Moscow, in St. Petersburg. There are so great experts working for many international companies, and of course, especially in the cities that can tap this potential to address the new green economy. So we have to give you some dates, some information. The digital transformation of the market, it will be $3.3 trillion naked by 2025. We are going to have an additional $100 trillion to the world economy. In the artificial intelligence market, we are expected to grow at the rate of 42% a year this year, and come to a business of almost $700 billion. The machine learning market also is going to grow. But at the same time, we're still facing the challenges of the environment. Last year, luckily, thanks to COVID, the impact of our actions to the environment become less stressed. However, but we still have the challenges. We are growing. The global temperature is growing more than the 2% that we agree at the Paris. And actually, we need to achieve 1.5 centigrade degree growth if we want to avoid irremediable consequences in the environment. So last year, as I mentioned, we had $6.8 trillion losses for COVID. It was a big issue for many countries, developing countries, for many economies, for a small business in Europe. They're still suffering, and in the developing countries. But still, there is a recovery coming up. China is growing, and in Russia, the Russian Federation, I believe, is also moving ahead. And then we have to tap the chance. Now we have the opportunity to link both the recovery with the digital economy, with the green environment, with all those climate issues. And you have the resources, we have the resources, especially in the Russian Federation, you have the resources to address that. It's a matter of organizing that, of getting the right policy, of getting the right commitment. So just to mention some of the briefly, some of the solutions we have seen, especially in the real estate at the government level, at the local government. We have seen solutions, and they are becoming more important. Machine learning for solution in the planning the infrastructure, planning the roadways, building design, and energy saving design, assessing the wastewater, keeping our system. So we have sensors on the real estate. We have cloud solution to enhance to remote control of the energy management in the buildings. We have remote control of the wastewater treatment. Or we have to controlling the road, making the traffic more environmentally friendly, making the environment more, reducing the consumption of energy or fossil fuels and so on and so on. So we have those opportunities coming, and the technology is there, right, to work with us, to help us to be more efficient at the level of government, country, city management. We have in the food system, we have also, of course, in the agriculture, we are improving the agriculture sector with the new technologies. And in generally, this big data, amount of data, we can make also the investors. We were talking today about the green financing, about green banking. The investors have become more aware of the greening of the issues of projects. Therefore, it becomes difficult to get some traditional financing, but because the big data make the information more transparent. If we handle the data properly, we can see the origin of the investment, how the impact in the cycle of the life cycle of the product. We were talking to the cycle economy, how the product was produced, where it was produced, what was the impact, what is the future impact of the product. So therefore, this information is giving us, the society, power to be more transparent, to have more, to be more active in the selection of our technologies, our products. So there is also a producer. So it's from the public sector, it's an increasing pressure, will be an increasing pressure towards the economy, towards the government, to be more efficient in many of the actions. But we have the tools. The issue is we have the tools, and we need to take advantage of those tools. How there are some solutions available. I am sure you are aware of that. You have read about that. There are so many solutions. There are top cities in the world moving ahead on the green economy. In Moscow today, they share with us how you're moving toward the digitalization of the economy. But there are actions are isolated. They are in piecemeal approach. But you can have, as I mentioned, in the green the technology, we have in transportation and handling over infrastructure, the street lights, the traffic signal, the big building energy management system, the heat and climate engines in the system. We can have the access control and so on, so on, so on. There are smart sanitation. There are a number of technologies available and going and growing. But how we can do that as a city, how we can tap the information and to be more efficient in that. Certainly, it's again, we need to at the city level, we need to encourage, create ecosystems where we can tap those technologies. For sure, in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in all the cities, there are tremendous mathematicians and the group. So mathematics is one of, I studied in Russia. I know my mathematics background is one of the solid, and it really is, and therefore you see so many deep data analysis with Russia working in many worldwide, but you have the tap there. So the issue is how we can tap this information and channel this power of knowledge towards the green economy. One of the issues that many cities or countries are doing is creating those ecosystem platforms where you create spaces or you coordinate all the action, the NGOs, the journalists, the public society, the journalists we have today representation, or the institution, the government, towards this solution. Create the startups solutions, aligning the economy, aligning the actions with the corporate or SMEs, the investors, the government, the citizens, the academia, and the intermediaries who can manage those clusters, incubate those technologies, and work on that. But it's a matter of policy making. Yes, we can tap the opportunities, we can become greener, and we can meet many of the regulatory ideas we were talking today, meet all the targets of Paris, or try to accelerate that, thanks to the digital transformation and thanks to this exercise, because today digital transformation is part of our life. And we all are aware of the potential, how we can tap this technology, and certainly it needs the commitment and the strategy and the collaboration of all the actors in the country. So I just wanted to share some of in the World Economic Forum about that we had an opportunity that last year. We are having now an opportunity to relaunch, reload the economy, make it green, and tapping all the potential of the technology is given us, and the digitalization that's part of our life. With this, I believe these are ideas I wanted to share with you, and I believe I can stay available for questions. But before all, I want to thank for the invitation. Really appreciate being invited. Appreciate listening all the presenters with tremendous impact. I really enjoy listening, and well, looking forward perhaps one of those days I will start. Thank you to you, and I believe I need to upgrade myself. Thank you to you, and well, I stay available. Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate, wish you all the success in this discussion. Thank you.
В одной презентации
In one presentation, you touched upon the huge layer of the ecological problems, taking into account the COVID situation. You've drawn all the potentials and perspectives, and it will be unwise to make use of these prospects. On the one hand, there are prospects and opportunities, and with a huge economic effect. On the other hand, it is social effect and environmental effect as well. I have the request whether or not your presentation can be placed on our site, uploaded on our site, so that people can get acquainted with your presentation. Is it possible?
I believe it's a matter of the moderator. I'm ready to share it. It's not an issue.
It's very good that UNID is concerned with digital issues. In the Russian Federation, we have a driving force for digitalization, and it's undoubtedly the Academy of the State Service under the patronage of the Russian Federation President, and we have their director of the Northwest Institute of the Russian Academy of National Economy and State Service under the patronage of the President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Shamakhov. Thank you so much, Ivan and Denis. It's for the first time I've been to this forum. I'm very interested. It's very interesting for me. It's very useful. The speakers are brilliant. Many interesting issues have been raised, discussable ones. I'd like to remind you, dear colleagues, that globalization and constantly growing rates of urbanization throughout the world, as well in Russia, they are accompanied by the growth of ecological problems. A considerable part of them is related to unplanned increase in the population density in the cities. In Russia, 75% of the population they live in cities, and the tendency is in the growth pattern. For the time being, it's quite natural process because economic, domestic, cultural, social conditions, they are undoubtedly better in large cities. But on the other hand, new challenges are emerging. Old challenges are deterioration that influence the quality of life of a human being. Ecological problems of the large cities, and it's the important point of our forum, requires new approaches. And especially I'd like to highlight new managing solutions, taking into account the implementation of current digital technologies, as well as namely in the large cities such as St. Petersburg, and 5.5 million people live here. I'd like to remind you that St. Petersburg is rated 4th in Europe. The main ecological problems of the city, they are well known. It's air pollution by industry enterprises, by car exhausts, the pollution of the river near water by the industrials and domestic waste. It's the pollution of the agricultural areas, noise pollution, soil pollution, the solid waste disposal, reduction of the green spaces and green belt of the city, and other problems. The government of the city recently have adopted different measures to improve the situation. The most successful are the following: the construction of the main sewage collector in the north part of the city. Now we purified more than 85% of sewage waters, as well as reconstruction and construction of new purification facilities, the installment of the noise abatement screens on the main roads, and also the landfill Krasny Bor is changed its the authority. Fortunately, the ecological situation in the city, according to the experts in the ecological community, is still deteriorating. The solution should be found, and we shall to improve our management by creating new technologies, digital technologies, namely it may lay the foundation for prompt solution of ecological problems. We shall use the suggestions based on the scientific research and wide public discussions, as well as successful experience, practical experience. In the national project, housing and city environment, the project is being realized that is called the Smart City. The Ministry of Construction involves 8 areas. One of they are the following. It's the innovation in the city, smart transportation, ecological safety. Not all the instruments of this project can be successfully used and applied to different regions of districts of St. Petersburg, but there are urgent of them that require the use of the current technical solutions. The Smart City project First of all, smart management, smart solutions, such problems as air pollutions and industrial emissions. It's important to install highly technological purification systems. The plants and thermal plants are to be equipped with their mighty filters to capture their wastes. But now we are talking about private enterprises. They used to be state-run facilities, and it's very difficult to make them to install this new system. So we have to apply the economic impetus, such as the tax reliefs and others. Public hearing is needed and enhanced state control and public control. The second area is the development of the smart transport, ecological friendly transport. It's electrical transport, electrobuses, trolley buses with the enhanced autonomous run and ecological taxi service. We need to improve the road network. We have to allocate their lanes for the public transport. We have to install the charging stations. All problems of the city, not only our problems, it's a collection and disposal of the solid municipal waste. For 2 years in our country, we have been transferring to a new system of solid waste management. For example, the project of ECOLOGY, we need up to 2020. We should direct 36% of the waste, and for transportation, 60% of the waste. We have developed we have to develop the certain scheme, territorial scheme of waste management. In our city, we have 2 waste processing plants. Annually, the city produces more than 10 million cubic meters of waste, of course, produced in the quotation marks. Practically, financial and legal basis frameworks haven't been changed. Their agreements are still made for transportation of the waste with the carrier company, and all the expenditure, all their earnings, they go to the transportation companies. They are not interested in recycling. For them, it's easier to transport the waste to the landfills and waste dumps. Many technologies are suggested of waste management. For example, consumer goods. For example, Spectechnica company suggests to use non-recyclable waste and to dispose these wastes without burying them in the landfills. They suggest a number of real projects that don't require state financing, that do work in other regions, namely in Moscow as well. It means that the disposal of solid municipal waste can be individual and profitable business. Current technologies do exist. We need a new concept of the process management using the public-private partnership, using different types of agreements between all the market stakeholders. I'd like to say that Northwest Management Institute is ready to do this work. I welcome everybody, dear colleagues, for cooperation. Another solution, technological solution for the city, it's recycling of the organic wastewaters and organic waste that can be used for production of fertilizers. Now, this organic waste, they are incinerated or they are buried in a specifically designed landfills. Biotech companies offers and suggest to use their unit, pilot unit for recycling of these biological waste. Some companies, Biocanal and other companies, they became interested in this project. We think that this initiative requires administrative support from the city and from the regions as well. Our institute at an educational establishment is ready to contribute to the solution of this of the problems of St. Petersburg. Namely, it's a professional training and ecological teaching of the youth. Ecological principles, they are laid in the strategy of the development of our institute. Ecology is one of our key principles, and the institute declares a comprehensive approach as to our curricula and scientific and research work. In the program of further learning, together with the committee that is headed by Denise, 173 managers and specialists from the different municipalities of St. Petersburg, they were educated within the framework of the program Ecological Safety and Environmental Protection. The content of this program is being enhanced. In current year, we will offer additional learning, additional curricula, involving digital learning and digital ecological programs. We invite everybody who is interested in this. Our approach suggests the priority of ecology in the education, upbringing, and training. Our institute has the concept of the smart consumption. It involves the setting of the system of separate boxes for 16,000 students, litter bins for the lamps and other hazardous waste. We conduct different festivals in our institute. We organize some events where some unwanted things, such as textbooks or notebooks, can be given for disposal, and also we support all these events, handling out the products with the symbols of our institute. In the libraries of our institute, we are planning to create areas for book crossing. Dear colleagues, in conclusion, I'd like to point out that St. Petersburg has many different titles, even a capital title. St. Petersburg is one of the largest centers as to the studying of the Arctic zone. St. Petersburg is the gateway to the Arctic. We have the 90% of all the shipment from the North Marine Way. Many investors, they go to the Arctic from our system. To preserve the fragile ecosystem of Arctic, we need to make efforts here in St. Petersburg, pulling the efforts of business, public, and scientific communities. The Russian ecological movement the Association of Polar Residents. We shall develop the ecological standards with the help of these two organizations to apply them to the Arctic. I am very thankful to everybody who is here to solve the problem of the large city.
Is that now we are looking at the EcoNet market, the National Technology Initiative market. You see the market segments: clean technology, industrial, symbiosis, and green finance. Potentially, this market of is over $27 trillion. This market is estimated. And one of the main ideas is to form an ecosystem of industrial symbiosis in Russia through development of such centers. I will talk briefly about that. We are doing this now together with the Agency for Strategic Initiative. This initiative was included in the top 100 ideas and top 8 ideas on digital economy. We signed an agreement on cooperation between our cluster and I will not go into detail. I think my presentation will be available later. So what initiatives we have, we work closely with other regions, with other states, and let me inform you that green diplomacy works. It works well because in our cluster we have companies from Finland, Norway, Denmark. We even have Japanese companies. Deputy Minister spoke here. So it's good to see everybody's coming up with good initiatives and everybody's working in St. Petersburg market addressing specific tasks. And for proposals, the offer that we have for the regions has been supported by the government. So we need to create an inventory of green technologies, create a digital platform, and such test parks in 50 out of 86 regions, 85 regions of the Russian Federation. Let me mention the industrial symbiosis center. We have already launched. It's not far from EXPOFORUM. If you are familiar with the program, after this session is over, we have a parallel session where these issues are discussed in more detail in the framework of the Baltic Sea Day. So it will be possible to visit the Industrial Symbiosis Center, where specific solutions, where raw material for one company is waste produced by another company. Some solutions have already been implemented, and it involves foreign technology in the framework of cross-border cooperation. And of course, we are proud of this project. Yes, it's fairly small today, but it's working. And as mentioned by previous speakers, we'll be able to implement as a commercial solution. It's been implemented as a commercial solution, and in my presentation, you'll be able to see. So we currently have various projects for regional clean technology clusters supported by the St. Petersburg cluster. And I will not describe all the projects to you. Let me just describe one project, Load on the Environment, as an excellent pilot project where we conducted our energy saving on a typical block of flats without any financing from the state. So we used money from a Norwegian private pension fund, a member of our cluster. Our Russian companies were also got involved, such major companies such as Danfoss, working at input replacement program in Russia. And the results, we achieved excellent results. I will not talk about the economic results, which are also good. But what I would like to mention now is that the load on the environment, the carbon footprint, was reduced by almost 25% in comparison with similar blocks, similar buildings. And the Catapult project has been launched. This is an excellent result, and if that can be multiplied, and that's a very typical block of flats, and the resident with ordinary residents, just like you and us. Of course, we use the experience of our Scandinavian partners and their skill of financial planning, the ability to use the best technology available. And these projects can demonstrate, can also be, if we talk about decreasing the load on the environmental load, decreasing the carbon footprint, I believe that without the Ministry of Economics, the Ministry of Finance, without the assistance of Central Bank of Russia, of course, these issues can be discussed, but this discussion will not be efficient because we need to develop a special tax policy for stimulation, develop the monetary policy, and then, only then, not only through not only because it's necessary to regulate and create favorable conditions for companies and households, will be able to reset the entire urban environment, make it more efficient. Moreover, that today's and it's good that previous speakers mentioned that how the government of Russia, how the leaders of Russia are reacting to this. The other day, I came across an article by Ursula von der Leyen, chairman of European Commission, and Mr. Hoyer, head of European Bank or Climate Bank. And everything we are discussing today is in line with these articles. That's speaking of green diplomacy and how well we can cooperate at this level. And let me tell you right now, our clusters not getting any money from the budget. All our members are making their own money. Revenues in 2019, we don't have data for 2020. In 2019, not in Russia, but in St. Petersburg, we made over 20 billion rubles. Today we have our cluster has 81 participants. Our cluster is the most transparent of all clusters in St. Petersburg. And once again, I would like to thank for the opportunity to talk about our activity. Our website has a description of all our projects. We are very open, very transparent. We even let you see inside our financial models, what economic results we achieve. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that I was pleasantly surprised by the presentation of the head of department from Moscow, the view of the environmental policy and their understanding of the role of the department. And I think the Committee of Management of Natural Resources should prepare that the role of the committee in all the city tasks will grow, because this environmental, ecological thinking is now a part of our life, and we should be ready for this. And you've been working hard. You've done many good things, but it's also necessary to put these things into real life when your colleagues from other authorities are making decisions. Thank you. Information about our cluster is available. If you have any questions, I hope we will have an opportunity to talk later.
Thank you, Svetoslav. Dear friends, at this point, the plenary session has been concluded. We have been a bit late, but quite 10 minutes. I think now we can ask and answer questions, just one question. We have 2 mics, 3 questions from the audience. Good afternoon, dear forum participants. I'm the senior editor of Ecology magazine, Lisovsky. On behalf of our newspaper, I congratulate everybody with this forum. It's a great achievement of St. Petersburg. I will be brief. Our committee, Ecological Committee, that is headed by Mr. Denis Belaev, it does huge things, as well as the company Vodokanal. But as to my practical experience, I have the suggestion that may be supported by our committee and the governor of St. Petersburg. The governor has created the Ecological Council in St. Petersburg. For the first time in December, we had the first meeting. I have the suggestion, whether or not you support this, Denis. I'm trying to promote the idea of their establishment of the Day of the Neva River, because we have the Day of the River Lena. Day for St. Peter's and other rivers, Don and others, and Volga. For St. Petersburg, the Neva River is a water source on which everything is based upon, culture as well. But in the conscience of residents, there is no idea that the Neva River is an ecological artery. I think we need the Day of Water in St. Petersburg. It's my opinion. But what's your opinion? Whether you support this or not? Do you have any specific date? Name the date. It's an important issue. We have to concentrate the efforts according to some historic principle. Think about this as an idea. I do support and do share it, and I think no one who is present here will remain indifferent to this, because the attitude to the nature, to ecology, to St. Petersburg, it's a general. It should be the general festivity, but as to the basin of the river Volga, there are a great number of subjects, areas around this. But we shall to study these here. But in principle, I am for this. And moreover, the governor of St. Petersburg today has announced this year is the year of ecology, and all your suggestions will be considered, accepted, and let's pool the efforts to study this and to think about the precise date. Dear colleagues, are there questions? You are tired. You are tired. Thank you very much. We will have a great number of interesting events and round tables. We will be waiting for you there to discuss in details the problems that we are facing. And with the large strokes, we have highlighted these problems now. Thank